Reflection over the y-axis. If you have the function f equals the square root of x and you want to reflect it over the y-axis, all you have to do is replace the x with a negative x. Reflection over the x-axis. Now, if you have the same function y equals the square root of x and you want to reflect it over the x-axis, you must multiply f of x by negative 1, which would give you y equals the negative square root of x.
Translations. Adding or subtracting a positive constant to a function will translate the graph up or down by that many units. Adding or subtracting a positive constant to x will translate the graph left or right by that many units. For example, the graph of x squared looks like this, but by adding 1 to the function as a whole will translate the graph up on the y-axis by 1 unit. But by adding 1 to x will cause the graph to move left 1 unit. By subtracting 1 from the function, the graph will move down 1 unit on the y-axis. Subtracting 1 from x will move the graph right 1 unit. Stretches and compressions. Multiplying a function by c when c is greater than 1 will stretch the graph vertically. Multiplying a function by c when c is less than 1 but greater than 0 will cause the graph to compress vertically by a factor of c. By multiplying x by a factor of c when c is greater than 1 will compress the graph horizontally. But when c is less than 1 but greater than 0, it will stretch the graph horizontally, all by a factor of c.
Symmetry. There are 3 different types of symmetry. Symmetry about the x-axis, symmetry about the y-axis, and symmetry about the origin. The first type of symmetry is about the x-axis. This is for every x, there is both a positive and negative y. The second type of symmetry is the y-axis. This is that for every y, there is both a positive and negative x. The third type of symmetry is about the origin. This is that for every coordinate pair xy, there is also a coordinate pair negative x, negative y.
Now you know the basics of translations, reflections, stretches, and compressions. You can look at an equation and know what the graph will look like. For example, say you have this equation. Since we know the graph of y equals x squared looks like this, we can start with that. By adding 5 to x, it will shift the graph to the left 5 units. Subtracting 2 from the entire function will shift the graph down 2 units. Finally, since x is now negative, the graph will be reflected over the x-axis.